Hello and welcome to Creative Sparkle. My name's Holly and today we're doing an art journal prompt list. So grab your art supplies and let's get crafting. Hello and thank you for joining me today. So we're working in a normal sketchbook that has just the A4 pages rather than working on 2 pages like before. So the first prompt we're going to be doing is priming your page with a clear or white medium. So I've just popped some masking tape over the ring binder there so I can make sure that we've got a nice straight line. And I'm just going to use white gesso to prime the page. If you prefer, you don't need to use gesso. You don't have to prime your page if you don't feel the need to. I just wanted to prime my page to make sure that I'm ready for the next medium. So if you did prime your page, once that's dry, we'll move on to prompt number 2. Divide your page with a horizon and choose the time of day, add the sky accordingly. So I've chosen to use gelatos and I'm going to do a sunset sky. So I'm starting off with yellow, I'm going to use orange and red as well and get that sky blended in. I'm going to keep adding colour and then add water to blend it out, and then once I'm happy with the colour of the sky and the ombre effect, I'm going to just remove part of it at the bottom to add a sunshine at the bottom with the yellow as well. So to add a sunshine, I'm just removing some of the gelatos by adding some water in the shape that I'm looking for. And then I'll just add some yellow gelato on top of that and blend it out so that we've got the sunshine. Obviously, if you don't want to use gelatos, paints is fine, whatever you have available to you. So prompt number 3 is to add a pathway and a ground either side. So I'm putting a pathway in the middle and I'm going to use the green and black mixed together. The path will be more on the darker side, and then the ground either side of it I'll have a bit more green. So once I've added the path, I'll then add some paint on either side of that, and as I'm adding it I realised I didn't want the path to go quite that far, so I just blended it out with some water. Luckily with the gesso underneath that's easy to do, and I just took that away with the wet page, as you can see. So with adding the green paint for the ground on either side, I'm going to blend it out so that it's darker at the top where the sunshine meets and then lighter at the front, and you'll see once that's dried. So once we're happy with that, we'll move on to prompt number 4, which is to add some subtle stamping or stenciling. So I've chosen to use Peel Paint Distress Ink and I'm using this little stamp here, and I'm just going to do a complete row at the top, and then I'm going to use a different lighter colour, again in Distress Ink, but I'm going to be using the Bundled Sage to add some at the bottom as well, just to keep the texture going. So once you finish that step, we'll move on to prompt number 5, which is to add some scenery either side of your pathway. So I've chosen this stamp set that I got with a magazine. I'm going to use this little shed and the little tree, and I'm going to use Black Soot Distress Ink Oxide, and I'm going to stamp that shed there. I realise you can't see it very well, but when you're looking at the page directly you can see it. And then I'm just going to add stamping of those trees either side as well. So for prompt number 6, we're going to add some texture to the page without using modelling or texture paste. So I've come across this lace that I have, and I'm just going to use Mod Podge to add it as clouds in my sky. So I'm just going to cut out random shapes to make them look kind of cloudish and then I'll stick them onto the sky so that we've got the texture added there. If this isn't something you've got available to you, and obviously we're not using modelling paste, then perhaps you could use some twine or something else that you have available to you. You could even just add some paper or something along those lines, even just a thick layer of paint to add some texture, whatever you have available to you. So for prompt number 7, we're going to add 1 or 2 focal images to the scene. On this occasion I've just chosen to go with the one focal image, and I'm going to use a house that I have from this stamp set, and I'm going to stamp that with jet black archival ink. Now I'm keeping it on here just in case I need to restamp the image so that I know it's going to be in the same place. And I'm going to colour them with some alcohol markers that I have here. They're not the top brand or anything, but they're just the ones that I have, and they're grayscale markers. So I'm just going to go over the image and make it look as pretty as I can for my focal image, and then I'll get that cut out at the end as well. Once I've cut it out, you can see a little balcony on the right side. I do cut that out because I'm going to stamp the image again onto the page so that we've got all those extra little pieces in the background. Obviously, when you choose your focal image or images, they will need to be coloured according to your sky and what weather you've chosen to go with. So that's the reason I've chosen grayscale markers, is because I've gone with the sunset, so anything brighter I think wouldn't really fit with the page as well. So just keep in mind what kind of sky you've gone for and colour accordingly. So I'm sticking my focal image down with some Mod Podge as I used earlier for the clouds, and then once we're happy with that, we'll move on to prompt number 8, which is to add a little sparkle to your page. So I've chosen to use the glitter glue from Doe Crafts in Crystal, and I'm just adding some sparkle to the windows on my house, and I'll also add some sparkle to the clouds in the sky as well. Obviously, if you don't want to use glitter glue, you could use a different kind of medium to add your sparkle. You could even add some sparkly twine or ribbon to your page if that's what you prefer. I just chose to go with the glitter glue because I thought it would complement the page quite well and go with the lace quite well for the clouds. So once we've finished with adding the sparkle, we'll move on to prompt number 9, which is to insert a title of your choice if desired. So I've chosen to use this new stamp set that I have, and I'm going to stamp the word escape. So I did decide to do it with some embossing powder. So I'm going to start off with some talcum powder that you can see here, and I'm just going to rub some of that onto the page just so that we've got none of the embossing powder sticking on the excess. And once I've done that, I will then stamp the image with some glue ink, and the word escape will be stamped, and the embossing powder that I've chosen to use is actually a mix of two. So I mixed a black sparkle embossing powder with a white embossing powder, attempting to get grey. That obviously didn't work. I've chosen two that are different consistencies, so it's come more white than anything, but it still has that sparkle in it, so I'm happy with the result in the end. So I'll just get that heat embossed, and then once that's done, we'll move on to the next prompt. And don't feel as though you need to use heat embossing to add your title. You can add it whichever way you like. And I'm just going to use the fine liner just to go around the words so that it brings it out a bit more. If you decide that you wanted to paint it or add a title from a magazine, whatever you have available to you and whatever you think suits your page. So the 10th and final prompt is to finish with simply adding dots to your page. So I've chosen to go with a white gel pen just to add some dots here and there. I add some around the word escape and around the house, and then that'll be the page finished. So the end result will be in pictures at the end. If you do decide to take part in the prompts, please do tag me on Instagram with the hashtag #SparklePrompts, and I will see you next time, where we will turn your creative spark into creative sparkle. Thanks. Bye.